Welcome to the Common Man Football Show, and today's episode is the New York Jets draft class. And this is a class that I'm not gonna lie, guys. It wasn't okay. It was not as bad as people say it is, but it does have some rough around the edges parts to it. Starting with the first pick of the draft, Jamal Adams, free safety out of LSU. When it comes to production, he was 83.89 in terms of solo tackle market share, 97.15 when it comes to interception market share, and 86.34 when it comes to pass deflection market share. His issue with production is that and this is just him compared to elite safeties. As a free safety, he doesn't hit the all-pro level when it comes to pass deflection market share. And as a strong safety, he doesn't hit the all-pro level when it comes to solo tackle market share. So he's in a bubble where he doesn't have elite production fitting of a free safety, and he doesn't have elite production fitting of a strong safety. And then you get to his athleticism, where he only scored 53.47 in terms of explosiveness, 79.46 in terms of speed, and 87.62 when it comes to flexibility for his size, which is pretty much Reggie Nelson as an athlete. I'm not going to say he's going to be bad. Age-wise, he's young. He scored a 94.71 age score. He has lots of things going for him. But he doesn't have a very clean profile. It's a very huge jump to make to say that he's going to be an elite strong safety, or he's going to be elite free safety, or that he's going to be an elite player also because his athleticism isn't elite when it comes to his overall athleticism. At either position. So I just, I think best case you have a very good safety. You have a guy very similar to Reggie Nelson. I think he might be better than Reggie Nelson. And Reggie Nelson has been one of the better safeties in the NFL for a while. But I just don't think that Jamal Adams is a Troy Polamalu type guy, is a Ed Reed type guy, Sean Taylor type guy, Eric Berry. He just isn't that type of guy when it comes to his profile. So top 10 is a little rich, to say the least, when it comes to his selection, because he doesn't have all the markers of a truly elite safety. And because he doesn't have all the markers, he doesn't check all the boxes for that type of guy, you don't want to take that guy top 10 if he doesn't check all the boxes when it comes to that position. So I felt like that was a bit of a reach for a need. He's a good player, but I just feel like it's a little bit of a reach in terms of his overall talent. And there was no safeties in this class that had top 10 overall. They didn't, there was no safeties that checked all the boxes, including Jamal Adams. So there wasn't like, oh, take this safety over him. They're just take no safety over him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Then we come to the next pick of the draft in Marcus May, defensive safety out of Florida. When it comes to his production, he scored a 69.72 in terms of solo tackle market share, 41.18 when it comes to interception market share, and 83.18 when it comes to his pass deflection market share. Age-wise is not that great. He scored 47.17 in terms of his age score. His overall production was only 64.57, which and this is schedule adjusted production, by the way, at every single multiple All-Pro and multiple Pro Bowl safety since the 1999 NFL draft class had significantly much higher score than 64.57. Athleticism-wise, he scored a 59.58 in terms of explosiveness, at a 72.85 in terms of speed, and 46.23 when it comes to flexibility for his size. So he's explosive, he's fast, but he's not very flexible. I think best case scenario, you have a guy that could be a starter for you guys at strong safety. And I think that's kind of what they're planning on doing, is to have Jamal Adams. Actually, I have no idea what they're doing. It's just weird because Jamal Adams is more of a strong safety kind of guy than a free safety kind of guy. And May is more of a strong safety. His production for May at least is strong safety level. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do with these guys because, May can be a starter. I'm not denying that, but the injury history is a little lax. The age is not exactly flattering, and I just don't think quality outcomes are on the table based on his schedule-adjusted production. So that's the only thing I can say there. I think there was better options on the table, to say the least, when it comes to you guys picking there, like Josh Jones and even Obi Melifonwu and a couple other guys. And then we get to the wide receivers that they selected. They took Ardarius Stewart. Both these guys are very similar guys. Ardarius Stewart, in terms of production, scored 70.35 in terms of his passing yardage market share production. Age-wise is decent, and his athleticism is 72.54 in terms of explosiveness and 81.13 when it comes to speed. I liked Ardarius Stewart on film. I think he's a very solid kind of number 2 wide receiver potential. Production-wise, he scored 3-time Pro Bowl level. He didn't do the short shuttle and the 3-cone, which kind of makes me worry a bit in terms of what his flexibility is, especially guys that come from Alabama, because they usually work those guys to death in terms of their hips and their knees and their ankles. But I think Stewart is an okay pick. I think there's better options, but again, does he have good potential to become a successful player? I'd say yes. So I'm not going to say this is a terrible pick, but I am just saying that there's not a lot of things here pointing towards Pro Bowl level sort of stuff. Again, most of the time when it comes to 3-time Pro Bowl level stuff, you're talking about fringe Pro Bowl players. So you're not talking about guys that are going to be consistent. You're not talking about like Odell Beckham Jr. type guys when you're talking about this level of production for Ardarius Stewart. So best case scenario, I would say, is he becomes a Pro Bowl player. Worst case scenario, I think you have like a starter / backup guy. But I think you'll probably get there in the middle. I think he'll be a starter, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be a special player. And then the next pick for you guys is Chad Hansen, wide receiver out of Cal. In terms of his production, 73.84, which again is the 3-time Pro Bowl level, all the way back to the 1969 NFL draft class. And in terms of his age is similar to Ardarius Stewart. He scored 76.38 in terms of his age score. And his athleticism, he scored 48.62 in terms of explosiveness, 48.77 in terms of speed, and 83.10 in terms of flexibility for his size. The best comparison I can make for him as an athlete is Brian Hartline. And this is him compared to Brian Hartline in terms of athleticism. The only thing I can say about Hansen is he has significantly better production than Brian Hartline had coming out of Ohio State. So that's a positive. I don't want to make the Eric Decker comp because he's just not as swole as Eric Decker. But I would say, I like Hansen on film. I think he's a little raw, a little rough around the edges in terms of his route running. But I do think that there's enough components there. Like, he has a good idea about how to set up things and get open. And he also has really, really impressive body control. So I think there's some positives here. But I don't necessarily think he's going to be an elite wide receiver because of just how raw he is. And he's definitely not Jordy Nelson, because Jordy Nelson was a much more productive player. And this is just Jordy Nelson compared to Chad Hansen when it comes to their production. So again, Chad Hansen, decent pick, can be a starter. I think he'll be a starter, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be like this elite player anytime soon. I think he's going to be closer to like Brian Hartline or Eric Decker when it comes to his actual production. Again, I went to Eric Decker, I'm sorry. And then we get to the tight end that they selected in Jordan Leggett, tight end out of Clemson. In terms of his production, he scored 65.14 in terms of his passing yardage market share. Age-wise, he scored 80.29 in terms of age, which is decent. And athleticism, which is the only area where he kind of messed up a bit, is he scored 70.17 in terms of explosiveness, 76.38 when it comes to speed, and 47.28 when it comes to flexibility for his size. He's essentially a less athletic Jared Cook is the best way to explain his athleticism. And just this is kind of a comparison of him versus Cook. Production-wise is Pro Bowl level. I don't think he's going to reach that because, again, the flexibility is where the big issue is that most multiple All-Pro and Pro Bowl tight ends, the majority of them, have a certain level of flexibility for their size, and Leggett didn't really hit that. They also have a certain level of speed for their size, and Leggett didn't hit that either, and that's just kind of the issue, I guess. Can he be a long-term starter? Yes. But I think when it comes to quality outcomes, Leggett doesn't really have he doesn't have a leg up on the competition when it comes to high quality outcomes. So I'll leave it at that. And then the next pick of the draft, Dylan Donohue, linebacker slash edge slash whatever you want to call him from West Georgia. Starting with his production, he scored a 91 in terms of solo tackle market share, 86.18 in terms of sack market share, and 89.07 in terms of tackle for loss market share. All of these marks are at the FCS level, so you kind of have to throw it out. I hate to say that, but you got to throw it out because he didn't really play anybody. But I think the bigger concern with Donohue is age. He scored a 2.4 age score, which is really low. And when you also add in the fact of his athleticism, he scored a 12.4 in terms of explosiveness, 44.26 in terms of speed, and 59.67 in terms of flexibility for his size. Those aren't really great marks either. I think best case you have a special teamer here. I don't see a starter because of that athleticism. He doesn't have the athleticism it's just not there. I mean, age-wise, he's just way too old, and the athleticism is just way too low to think that he's going to become a successful player. And yes, he had decent production for his level for FCS level, but it's FCS level production. It's something I don't usually, well, not even FCS level. I mean, it's West Georgia for crying out loud. So I don't like to put a lot of stock in terms of players who play that type of competition unless they test really well as athletes and they also have decent age, and he doesn't. So unfortunately, I don't think that pick is going to be. I think that pick is more likely to disappoint than anything else when it comes to Dylan Donohue, despite the fact that he is a very try-hard, kind of gritty guy on film. And then the next pick for the Jets is Elijah McGuire, running back from Louisiana Lafayette. Production-wise, he scored a 75.13 in terms of his overall production, which is decent. But when you look at his age, he scored a 48.96 in terms of his age score, which is not getting it done when it comes to quality outcomes. Athleticism-wise, he scored a 74.57 in terms of explosiveness, 70.27 in terms of speed, and 24.97 in terms of flexibility for his size. The best comparison I can make between Elijah McGuire and a modern-day NFL running back is Charles Sims. This is Sims compared to Elijah McGuire when it comes to production. This is Sims compared to Elijah McGuire when it comes to athleticism. I think that's the best case scenario that you can expect for McGuire. He is not flexible. He's explosive and fast. He's somewhat decent when it comes to catching out of the backfield and doing stuff like that. Pass protection is not that great. Best case scenario, committee back. That's what I think. And I don't think you should expect much more than that based on his age and also based on his overall athleticism traits. Guys with this type of athleticism, guys that have like significantly below average flexibility, usually don't do that well. So, long term when it comes to becoming a starter and stuff like that. So, I wouldn't expect too much from Elijah McGuire other than a committee guy, a role player, that sort of thing. And then we get to just when the Jets kind of, in my opinion, just kind of gave up in the draft. Or at the very least, maybe they do analytics, but they're bad at it. But I'll explain why after I get through this. So Jeremy Clark, cornerback from Michigan. In terms of his production, he had 9.54 in terms of solo tackle market share and 11.42 when it comes to pass deflection market share. That's terrible. There's no other way to say it. It's not good. There hasn't been any Pro Bowl cornerbacks with that low solo tackle market share or that low pass deflection market share or even the combination of those two things. And Jeremy Clark is impressive in terms of size. I mean, he's big. He's he's over 200 pounds. He has long arms. He has all this kind of stuff. I'll just throw up all the size measurable stuff up here. He didn't test though. He was unhealthy during the process, so I didn't get any athleticism testing for him. But I don't really know what your plan is with this guy. If he's just a special teamer, if that's it. But based on his overall profile, and then the age, he was 57.76 in terms of his age score, and this is just the age score of most great cornerbacks. Actually, all great cornerbacks that were all pro had this level of age and this level of Pro Bowl, and this is where Jeremy Clark is. So I don't know what you guys are looking at when it comes to Jeremy Clark. I don't know what it is you're trying to get out of him. He has length, he has size, but it doesn't matter if you aren't productive. Richard Sherman was productive. Patrick Peterson was productive. All these great cornerbacks that had this great length were productive. Charles Woodson was productive. Let's stop with this all, well, they didn't throw at him in college. Even Deion Sanders, of all people, was productive. And back then, they probably did go, hey, don't throw his way. But Deion Sanders produced, despite the fact people weren't throwing his way. So don't tell me this whole, oh, well, he's not productive. Well, it doesn't matter because he's this all-star guy. And again, Jeremy Clark was basically a backup player at Michigan, by the way. So this, so I'll move on. I'm sorry to go on a rant there, but that's just weird. And then I'm going to continue ranting because I'm going to continue my rant because they take a guy in Derek Jones. He's almost identical to Jeremy Clark and Derek Jones, cornerback out of Ole Miss in terms of his production, similar to Jeremy Clark. Jones had 8.66 in terms of solo tackle market share, 18.41 in terms of pass deflection market share. Doesn't hit special marks when it comes to solo tackle market share. Doesn't hit special marks when it comes to pass deflection market share. He's a little younger than Jeremy Clark, though. He scored a 73.27 age score. But athleticism-wise, this is where the issues show up with Derek Jones in terms of athleticism. He scored a 91.75 in terms of explosiveness for his size, which is impressive. But only a 40.05 in terms of speed for his size and 22 in terms of flexibility for his size. Because keep in mind that Derek Jones is malnourished. He's 189 pounds. So even though he ran 4.48, that would be a great time for a cornerback that was 210 pounds or 200 pounds. But Derek Jones is 189 pounds, on top of the flexibility issues in terms of his short shell. So bottom line is, I don't know what you guys are doing with Derek Jones either. I think you guys only drafted him because he's a tall corner and he has length, but that's it. But these guys aren't productive. Repeat after me, draft productive football players. Draft athletic football players, draft productive football players, draft young football players, draft good football players. If you go into the draft with those 4 tenets being followed, you will come out with more good players than everybody else if you just follow those 4 rules when it comes to the draft class. And the Jets kind of did it. They drafted some young players in Jamal Adams and Jordan Leggett, Chad Hansen and Darius Stewart. They drafted some productive players in Jamal Adams, Darius Stewart, Chad Hansen, and Jordan Leggett. And they drafted some athletic players when it comes to Jamal Adams. But the best athlete you guys actually drafted overall was Jamal Adams. That's about it. So, I think if I don't like to give grades. The best thing I could say about the Jets class, is I think you got some starters. I think Jamal Adams and Marcus May, I think, are going to be your day one opening day starters eventually. I think our Darius Stewart and Chad Hansen are guys that I think potentially can become starters for you guys. Although I don't think either one of them is going to be like your number one wide receiver at any point in their career. And I think Jordan Leggett is going to become a starter for you. But I think Dylan Donohue, I think Elijah McGuire, I think Jeremy Clark, and especially Derek Jones are guys that you will not hear about much of in the next 4, 6, 7, 8 years. I think the guy who has a better chance of sticking and finding a role is Elijah McGuire. But I think all those guys, especially the last 2 guys you drafted in Jeremy Clark and Derek Jones, are guys that I would be very surprised if they were still on the roster in 4 years. I'd be very surprised when it comes to their production, when it comes to their athleticism traits. I just don't see it unless they're special teamers, unless that's what their intention was. In which case, if you want special teamers, get them as UDFAs. Don't draft guys to just be backups in day 3. Swing for the fences. Find guys that have the markers to become good players. Don't take the feudalistic sort of approach of, well, it's day 3, so our chances of getting a good player are now down the tubes. If you take that approach, you will end up with nothing but day 3 players. If you take the approach of, we're going to get guys that have the best chance to become successful players and potentially become starters, you will start to find more starters. So now we've come to the end of the Common Man Football Show for the Jets. My name is James Cobern. You can follow my work at Gymmetrics on Twitter. You can also see some of my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com, where I posted a lot of stuff. I mean, just check it. I did film grades. I did analytics profiles. I did a little bit of everything on that site. And you can also, again, the best thing you can do to help this channel out, again, is to like and subscribe. That's the best thing. Share it. Share the video with friends, family, whatever that you think might be interested in this type of thing. Also, again, leave a comment below if you have any questions. If you are curious about data and you're curious about how I got to some of the things that I got to, I'm happy to be open with you guys in terms of the information that I got, because again, most of the stuff that I do is stuff that anybody has access to. Everybody has access. If you have a keyboard and the internet, you can get this information. It's just a matter of collecting all of it and analyzing it, which is what these videos are about. So again, thank you so much for listening to the show, and I will talk with you guys probably in the next video. So again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys later. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.